Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Hacker Scouts Parents Orientation. I am Joanne Parsons, and the guild leader for Guild 015. That will be South Orange County, California. And also with me is my co-leader, Chris Hayes. Tonight's Parents Orientation will be broadcasted on air, and which means it is currently live streaming on YouTube, and we will also hopefully, as this is the first time we will be doing this, we'll hopefully be able to successfully record it so that the others who are not able to watch it tonight will be able to replay it at a later date. We hope to address several key questions about Hacker Scouts tonight. And with us are our executive director and founders and co-founders, Samantha Cook and Gareth Gallagher, are with us to help us understand what Hacker Scouts is all about and how we can bring it to our communities and benefit our young makers and hackers. So I would like to introduce you to Sam and Gareth, and at the later portion of this meeting, you can also ask your own questions, and we do have a series of questions that we want to make sure that Sam and Gareth will be able to answer first. So take it away, Sam and Gareth.
So my name is Samantha Cook, and I'm the executive director of Hacker Scouts, and my background is actually in education. I have a master's in education. I focused on museum and nonprofit learning. And with me is Gareth Gallagher. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Gareth Gallagher. My background is in engineering. I got degrees in physics and electrical engineering as well as robotics. And so I've been building robots and such, and adding some of the technical expertise.
So we wanted to begin by talking a little bit about how Hacker Scouts started. Back last year, actually, over a year ago now, my husband and I were involved in a series of young making projects, a bunch of different kinds of projects and programs, and not any one was the reason, but a combined set of experiences made us think about how technology and science and art and the integration of all of it was being approached, and how there wasn't any programs really that was doing that, was approaching it in a way that made sense, that was reaching a higher level of expectation and giving kids an advantage. And so we started coming up with this idea of Hacker Scouts. My background was in education, and his is in technology, and so we work really well together. So the first thing that we dreamed up was this idea of Open Lab. It was a concept where children could come in and experience concepts and skills in a really free way. It's very autonomous. The kids come in, there's a set of choices, and they make their own choices as to what they're interested in. And we knew all along that we wanted to have a more organized, more structured scouting program, but we wanted to hold off and see what the kids were interested in and how we might structure that. And in the meantime, Garrett came on as one of our mentors, and we started talking to him about it because he has some experience in this area, being an Eagle Scout, and he also had some visions of the same thing. And so we started working together to put it together, and we opened our first guild in November, I believe it was. So when we were planning all of this, we really were drawing on what had we learned so far. Well, we had learned that children love big ideas, but oftentimes programs don't either teach them the skills they need to reach those big ideas, or that they don't have the time to learn those skills to achieve their big idea. And so we thought, what if there was a program that could teach them year-round and could methodically take them through the requirements that they needed in order to achieve those bigger, huge ideas, because we don't want them to think that those aren't obtainable. And so when we were planning Open Lab, it was about touching on skills and concepts to see what was possible, and then the guild often makes it happen. Garrett, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess from my perspective, how I came into it, So yeah, as Sam said, I have strong scouting background. My mother ran a Girl Scout troop, and I was in Boy Scouts, and I felt that scouting was a very important part of my life growing up, and I had a lot of great mentors who really helped my development growing up. And so it actually so happened that I just finished working on a startup at the same time that that Sam and Chris had just started the Open Lab projects at our local hackerspace. And so I started volunteering there, and then came up to Sam and said, hey, I want to do this more scouting focus. And she said, hey, that's great, that we want to do that too. My big motivations from this came a lot from, as someone who grew up with Boy Scouts, they taught me a lot of great values that I feel like the organization is a little bit moved away from right now with their current, attitudes. And so I really wanted to give the same, moral guidance and, the great structure that I'd gotten from my scouting experience, but wanted to be part of an organization that really encouraged a lot more of an open-minded approach and a lot more, freedom, both in, how you express yourself and, the real freedom to explore a lot of different areas. And this was actually, when they Chris and Sam started the name Hacker Scouts, I really loved it because hacker for me, embodied a lot of those values.
Yeah, and as we were going along, it's important to know that we are all part of the maker movement. The maker movement, the idea that we can all make, that we all have creativity, that that there's an element of sustainability in being able to make or modify things for your own means. All of that is part of our lives already, something we're passing along to our kids. But we started looking at what was important to raising the next generation of makers. When we look at what's available right now within our public school system or other extracurricular activities, we don't need factory workers anymore. We don't need even cubicle workers anymore. We need innovators, and we need thinkers, and we need creative entrepreneurs. And so how can then we give kids an advantage? How can we teach them what they need to know? How can we teach them to adapt to technology? How can we teach them to dream big and achieve it? And so all of that went into designing a program that had a really solid foundation in child development and brain research, but then the next layer is fun and creative and individual, and how can we reach each individual child's needs. So as we went along, those were the things guiding us, and I think those are important things to know because that really guides our vision and how we approach not only our program itself, but how we approach working with leaders and individual guilds. Each individual guild is going to be special and unique. They're going to have their own interests. The kids are going to guide those interests because they definitely have opinions on what they're interested in. And so when we work with each guild, it's actually a very personal relationship, and we're building a community. We all collaborate together. We all come up with ideas. We have regular meetings. We all participate in our badge tree. We all come up with other activities for Open Lab. All of those things are very collaborative and interesting, and are like partnerships. We all have something to offer. So when we talk about the benefits, oftentimes the first question we get is, why? Why would you join Hacker Scouts?
Should we allow them to ask questions or ask the questions? I'm
sorry?
We're starting to go into more and more of the of the questions that may actually be asked.
Oh, all right. Joanna, your mic is muted.
hold on. There. All right. Gareth, I think one of the questions that I wanted to shoot over to you is about the hacker, the word hacker, because that's one of the questions that normally, like, what's in the word, like hacker word usually, like, it kinds of denotes a more, negative word. So why hacker?
Well, I mean, first off, I'd like to say that hacker the word has actually been misused a lot to mean someone who actually has malintent, whereas what's accepted in the computer science community is that's actually someone who's called a cracker, versus the hacker, which is someone who is really trying to explore their world and dive into the different things that they have. Yes, they're going to be taking apart, the physical stuff that they have and trying to understand the programs that they deal with, but it's not for a malicious intent. It's really because they want to learn as much as they can about it, and in that way, learn more about the world. We actually had quite a bit of a debate about the name Hacker Scout versus Maker Scout, and I feel that hacker is a lot more powerful in that it really emphasizes this initiative on the part of the individual, as opposed to whereas a maker might just be following directions, a hacker is sort of going outside the box and finding their own way to figure out how this works.
And in fact, it has. When you look at examples like, I'll just give one example, the Kinect, right? Which is this wonderful, we have one, we play with it, but so many hackers have actually taken it and modified it to do all kinds of things, from 3D printing to new ways to perform surgery. So there's this wonderful innovative spirit, right, to the term, and we wanted to take it back. We wanted to say, hey, this is actually a great thing. It's an innovative. It's about sustainability. Instead of making something new, you're hacking something and modifying it to meet your needs without having to make something new. There's a lot of reasons why we chose it, and we're proud of it. We stand behind it. You're muted again.
There you go.
There you go.
Nope.
Nope. Still can't hear you. I'm sorry.
There.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to turn it off when you're speaking so I don't keep on going in and out of this big screen. But anyway, I think at this point, like, I also would like to proceed to the next question, which is basically about membership. So there are like 3 items that are, like that people are, like asking us about typically. The requirements to start, like how can a guild, how can we start a guild? What are the requirements? And then what are the requirements of, to join a guild and become, a volunteer? What are the roles and tasks that one can take on as a member of that guild?
Right, that's a great question. So our membership requirements. When we have somebody come to us and say, I would like to start a guild, the first thing we talk about is leadership and location. So it's really important to have a strong leadership. In particular, it's really important for a leader to not be alone and to have a co-leader or an assistant leader, somebody who is going to help and take that initial role. Because the leadership is what will drive the guild and determine its success or not. The other part of that is location. Do you have a location to meet? And if not, how can we help you to find a location to meet? Sometimes those locations are in hackerspaces, like our guild is, and sometimes they are finding other ways to meet. We have a group meeting in a hobby in the back kind of activity area of a hobby store. Some people are actually building out a space that they have access to. Some people are meeting in their garage, and that's okay too. What we end up doing is helping to modify certain portions of the program if you don't have access to big equipment like 3D printers or laser cutters, that we can help you modify the program to meet whatever need you have. Sometimes, even if you don't meet there regularly, local hackerspaces will allow you to take field trips in and use their equipment on a casual basis or a field trip basis. But whatever combination of that works is what we work with, and we move forward. So when all of that, we figure all of that out, we do have membership requirements. We have a guideline, a set of guidelines, and what we ask is that all the leaders sign an agreement that includes things like you agree to our mission and our vision. Do we have, in order to work together, we're going to have the same vision of how STEAM education and skill building is approached. We ask that you make a commitment to advancing that accessibility to this kind of education. We ask that all guild leaders document their work. Documentation is really important because not only as an organization, it's really important to document all of our work, because we need to be able to show, yes, this is what we say is happening is actually happening everywhere. But more importantly, it's actually more important for the guild. When you document, the kids are able to see how the processes work. They're able to see how far they've come. The leaders are able to really assess what's working and what's not. And it serves as a little story, basically, of the guild. And the kids learn a lot from it. They get a lot from it. We have the kids do a lot of the documentation, and it's a really enjoyable process. We also ask that there's a separate financial guideline that we have, and it covers all the ways that we handle donations, how to open a bank account for your Hacker Scouts Guild, and it includes information on something we're almost finished with. We're just at the final end of getting the details on, which is a liability insurance policy that covers our entire organization. So all of that is included in our guidelines. It's up on our webpage, and in return, we actually do a lot. We help you with marketing, fundraising. We give you ideas on your program. Some locations are running just Open Lab. Some locations are running Open Lab and Guild, and some locations are running just Guild. And so whichever combination of that a location is running is what we help them with. Sometimes it's helping to organize what kind of Open Lab they want, or if they're doing the Hackerling circuit and they don't have access to a laser cutter, well then what are the other options for enclosures? And we're going to talk more about the Hackerling circuit in a minute. But it's all this troubleshooting. We also, all of our locations have a portion of our website for documentation, and all of the necessary business end, like emails and Google Groups, and we help them with all of that. In addition, because we're a nonprofit, we're able to accept tax-deductible donations. And for our leaders, it's a really wonderful community, and we collaborate a lot. And when I say that, what I mean is we are in contact with each other quite a bit, and we are having conversations about individual guilds, yes, but we also collaborate on larger things like the badge tree. Leaders are not only invited but encouraged to add badges to our badge tree, add activities to our Open Lab database, and we'll talk a little bit more about the badge tree again later. We also have weekly meetings with all the leaders and throw ideas or problem solve. Sometimes it's an individual guild that wants to problem solve. Sometimes we're problem solving as an organization. And we also have a list that's just for leaders where we talk about all of this also. So there's a lot of support behind it. The other thing is that it's really affordable. For all that support and that national kind of structure that helps you along and helps you achieve your goals, We have quite a lot of, I'm sorry, it just broke up again. I'm sorry. Is it still, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're going.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We with all of that collaboration, we really try to focus on, okay, what do we need to achieve together, and then what does each individual guild need. I'm sorry if that last part was disjointed, but it broke up.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the badge tree? And everyone's really curious about, like, oh, this is exciting, and just looking at that one-page visual of like what are the kinds of activities and projects or builds that are upcoming. The possibilities are just enough to make everyone, basically just so excited. Another question related to that that I received is, what if one child is not quite interested in one branch? How do we go about that? Is that going to go into the open lab, or, and maybe you can discuss the difference between the two, and maybe a parent can decide whether they're going to go opt for the weekly meetings or the open labs.
So our badge tree, and I'm just going to pull it up right here. Woo! Our badge tree is something that we've spent a lot of time on as a sort of way to organize all the different areas that we could be teaching. But the important thing to realize about this is that the badge tree is not a ends in of itself. When we first introduced the badge tree, which is right after we finish the Heckerling Circuit, which we can later talk about, how we introduce this tree to the Scouts is we say, okay, choose some kind of project that you want to be doing. And so we'll say one of the things that we've been told is I want to make a giant mechanical pig that shoots fire. And so we say, okay, you have that goal up, in mind, and now look at the tree and try and think what badges and what skills, rather, you're going to need to achieve that. So you can say, all right, well, you'll definitely need to get the fire control badge, so that you know how to, do fire systems. You'll if it's going to be a metal pig, you're going to want metal working and probably welding. If it's going to have motors, you're going to want to learn how that works. If it's going to have some circuits that drive it, that's going to be important. And so instead of just saying, hey, you should learn about LEDs now, and the kid says, why do I need LEDs? And you say, because they're cool. It's really coming from the kids themselves, and then saying, hey, I always sort of wanted to make this, but I have nowhere near the skills. And we say, well, you can learn those skills, and here's how. It might take a while to build up all that knowledge, but here's the things that you're going to learn, and we can teach those skills to you. And so every step of the way, they know, all right, well, this is going to help me, make that really strong leg of the pig, and I'm going to learn how to weld it really well so that, it can go and stomp on houses or what have you. Sam, you want to say something?
I do. So this is really important because some of our branches, so we have all of these branches, but then you'll see pathways, and some of them are very specific, like all along that particular branch ends up being a specific goal, like robotics. But then we have kids who think like outside the box, like a giant fire breathing robot pig, which is awesome, and I'd like to make one myself. And we sit down with every kid and identify those kinds of goals. The point is that they can see it visually. It's not someday, and it's not we're going to help you. It's we're going to help you achieve your goal. So they can visually see, okay, this is what I need to do. It's very personal, and it's very child-led. when we offer badges, normally what we do is take an assessment of all the badges that kids are interested in and try to choose the most popular ones and then cycle through them. And the kids actually vote on them. So in our guild, for example, we chose we went through and kind of looked at all the individual goals and picked the top 5 that seemed to be on most of everybody's wish list, and then we voted, and the top 3 are what's being offered right now. And those ended up being LEDs, programming, and a badge that we designed called 2D to 3D, in which by the end the kids will be proficient in designing in CAD and then be able to reproduce that design on the CNC or the laser cutter in 3 dimensions. So it ends up that eventually all of the badges that they're all interested in will be touched upon, but there's also got to be, there also is a little bit of compromise, and the children make those decisions themselves on where they're going to compromise and which ones they're going to work on first. But the badges come after the Hackerling circuit, which we probably should talk about first. Mm-hmm. When a guild starts, normally we have a few meetings to get to know each other, get into the rhythm of meetings, work on our soldering, and then we designed this project to be sort of the first big project, and it's called the Hackerling circuit. And Garrett, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, just so the Hackerling circuit is it's a whole set of things, and here I have a nice picture to show this. All right, so we drew this nice picture to help illustrate what we're talking about. That it's not just a kit. So if I was to reduce it to talking about it as a kit, I would say that this is an Arduino Shield. An Arduino is a microcontroller board that's become very popular with the do-it-yourself community. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, just think of it as a little computer that you can program very simple programs on. The circuit that they build is shown in the lower left-hand side or lower right-hand side, and it is something that attaches to the Arduino that you can, visualize things with. You can experiment with the buttons and the knobs and have that control LEDs and all kinds of useful, fun stuff. But really, more generally, the Hackerling circuit is an introduction to a lot of different areas of making. So, we start, and unlike a lot of electronics kits, we go through one component at a time. And so the first is just the bits that actually allow you to attach to the Arduino. And after that, they're able to experiment just with the basic programs that and interact with the circuit as it comes to them. But then they can add the speaker, say, and once they add the so when we give them the speaker, we say, okay, this is a speaker. You probably have seen other speakers before. Here's how a speaker works, and sort of show them the anatomy of a speaker. And then they can solder it onto their board and then go and program their Arduino to use the speaker. And so immediately after attaching it to their board, they can understand all the functionality that speaker gives them. So, we can talk about frequency, we can talk about different things about music and how different notes are scaled. And all that, really flows out of just, this one component. And so then we, each component actually will take a while to, attach and, talk about and program. But after all of this, after they have soldered all their components, they really have a very deep understanding of everything that's on this board. And we feel that that's a incredibly valuable experience in terms of knowing what tools are available to them. Um, so again, after during the soldering process, they're also programming. By programming, we really are talking at this point about just loading programs on that are pre-written, and they can change some values and see how that works. But they're getting at least exposed to what a program looks like and how variables work and such. After they've completed that part, we go on to making a physical structure that is around the Hackerling circuit, and that enclosure can be made out of wood, it can be made out of metal. We made ones out of plastic, as you can see on the middle left, and for that they need to do some design work. We have the basic outline, but they have to figure out where the holes need to be, and so they go and measure their circuit, and they start understanding how design is going to happen. And then finally, the last part of it is they sew a pouch that the whole enclosure goes into. And so with all of these skills, then they're really given a exposure to a lot of different areas of making. And this is the one part of the whole curriculum that we actually ask all the scouts to do. That they come in and we say, we want you to do this thing first, and we do that just so that one, they have the base knowledge of all these areas, and also just the exposure, so then they know a lot more about what is a possibility for them. A lot of kids come in and they say, I'm not interested in sewing at all, and then they sew the pouch and they say, hey, this is pretty cool. I just made something out of cloth, or in our case leather. That was a really fun experience. I might be interested in some more sewing stuff. And so that's really the whole point of this whole excursion.
Yeah, the whole project, the reason why we suggest it early on is because it is such a wonderful foundational project. It really does develop a lot of different skills, a lot of base knowledge that they can use further on. The question I get most frequently is, if I don't have access to a hackerspace with some, with equipment that can make like that enclosure, what do I do? And the answer is we modify it. So all of the Hackerling circuit can really be made anywhere as long as you have soldering irons. And
maybe a power drill too.
And yeah, and a power drill.
Yeah,
and
a hand drill.
The basic tools around the Hackerling circuit itself. The enclosure we did on the laser cutter, and that's true. And there's several ways to modify that. You could make it out of wood. You could super glue Legos together. You could even send away, and there are companies who will cut acrylic to your specifications and send it back to you, or what we've offered our guilds is if they need enclosures, we can actually cut them out at probably a better price than those companies, and we'll just send them to you at cost, and then they snap together. So there's lots of different ways we can work around it. The point is that when you start with it fairly early on, it gives the kids a really wonderful foundation of knowledge, and that's why we designed it.
We also actually try and integrate the Hackerling circuit into a lot of the different badges, so that this actually is really being a tool that they're going to be using for a lot of different things. So when they start doing C++, they're going to actually be writing code that's going to be going onto the Hackerling circuit. When they do other programs like Python, that's something that can very easily interface with the circuit. So they can write something on their computer and then control it with the circuit. When they do LEDs, they can control the LEDs from their circuit and do fancy projects. They can even attach this circuit into a robot chassis that they can make and use the circuit to drive it around. So it's really they're building something that they're going to be using throughout their whole Hacker Scout experience.
Right. I noticed Chris said on the side, knowledge that is directly related to the badge tree, just a little taste of each, which is absolutely right. It is giving them a little taste. This is the only time where we really say, we want you to do this project. This is the one thing that we ask them all to do. And it is really for that reason. It gives them a solid base of knowledge, but it also gives them a little taste to see what they're actually interested in moving on to. From there, they actually get a badge for the HackerLink circuit, and from there on, then they do move to badges. And Garrett, do you want to talk a little bit about badges?
Well, I mean, so we've been talking about badges a bit, but so the badge tree then, as you know, if you can see at the bottom, it all starts with a HackerLink circuit, and so then, as we said, after they finish that, that's when we sort of give them the choice, and we say, okay, now it's just up to you. Tell us where you want to go. The badges, we have a bit of structure with the badges. A lot of these badges we designed ourselves. Other badges you might recognize as being from Adafruit. We've tried to sort of group them into areas, and we have a rank structure that's tied to these areas. So the idea is if you've earned several badges in an area, well, as soon as you earn one badge in the area, you're rank apprentice in that. So I'll say for textiles, you get the basic sewing badge, and you're an apprentice in textiles. Once you go and do knitting and felting and applique, then having reached a certain number of badges in that area, and also having done some projects related to that area, then you progress to the rank of journeyman, and then after you've done a lot of things in that area, and also have been teaching other scouts, for a badge, you can then get the rank of master in that area. And so all these terms are from the guild type vocabulary that we're really want the scouts to not have to choose to do any specific area. It just do whatever they're interested in, and as they gain more knowledge, it's not that one scout is better than any other scouts or has a higher rank. They just have a higher rank in a certain area, and so they can say, well, this is my expertise, and they can then teach the other scouts their knowledge, and then they can also work together on projects. They can say, okay, I need some scouts who know about various mechanical stuff, and some scouts that know about electronics, because we're going to be doing this joint project together. And then they can really use the badges to signify their expertise in certain areas, and then work together better.
I wanted to circle back real quick to one of Joanne's original questions when we started this portion, which was about mentors, because this is actually a really important part. Most people are going to ask at this point, well, who's going to teach all this? And that is where the importance of mentors does come in. So when you form a guild, hopefully the leadership either has or knows somebody who does have some skills to contribute along this badge tree. But there's actually lots of places you can find mentors. When we bring on a group, it's very clear in our guidelines for the guilds that the parents will be participating in volunteering, and we've never actually had anybody have a problem with that. They're usually really eager in any way that they can. Some parents will come in and have skills and be willing to help out and teach the kids. Some of those skills are more general, like they know a lot about electronics, or they know a lot about soldering or making stuff in general, and so they're willing to kind of adapt and help. And sometimes it's very specific skills, like they'll come in and teach a very specific thing or a specific badge. But there are plenty of positions within the guild that parents can take on where they don't feel like they have skills in relationship to the badge tree or to the Hackerling circuit. Things like somebody who documents. One of our parents documents every single time. She takes pictures, she writes up a little blurb on what we've been doing and puts it up on our website every single time, and it's something we don't have to worry about. We also have a volunteer coordinator who puts up spreadsheets for the parents and rotates volunteers, like extra people to stay sometimes, or we notice that halfway through meetings, oftentimes blood sugar runs low, and so there's a snack rotation. Again, a position that you don't need somebody with technical skill. Also somebody who would be willing to help with fundraising or communicating with the larger organization. There's lots of ways in which parents can help that have nothing to do with the technical skill. However, you do need mentors with technical skill, and if you can't find them directly within your parent base, then you need to look outside. Oftentimes you can find individuals who have specific skills and bring them in for short-term mentorship. Even for the Hackerling circuit, you could find people who would be willing to come in for that. The badges are even, I think, a little easier because you're talking about very specific skills. So you find people in the community who might be willing, who enjoy working with kids and would be willing to come in and make a short-term commitment. That way, they know there's a beginning, they know there's an end, and you're not asking them for the whole year, but they can come in and contribute in that way. It's a really wonderful thing to do because A, it doesn't burn out your mentors, and B, it offers the kids some experience with some new kinds of mentors. Mentorship is actually an important component of our guilds and of our program in general. There's really a couple of different kinds. There's the adult-to-child mentorship, which is wonderful and is teaching not only through direct instruction, but through language and even body language and the terms they might use and even the inflection of their voice. Everything around that experience is mentorship, and that's how people used to learn, and it's how they learn best. There's also peer-on-peer mentorship. Some of the kids gain skills that others don't, and that's okay because then they end up working with each other to get what they need. That kind of mentorship, peer-on-peer mentorship, is actually really significant in this developmental phase for children, and we really try to encourage it. And then the third one is actually, we haven't talked about teens yet, but we have teens in our guild, and we are building the structure for them right now. Their program basically involves them working on their own projects and us mentoring them. If they want a badge, they need to badge at the adult level, not the modified level we have for 18 to 15-year-olds. And they help mentor the younger children. Well, that's our third kind of mentorship. And with the teens working with the kids is wonderful. The kids love working with the teens, and it's reinforcing the knowledge for the teens to reach that mastery level. So those are all the ways that you can, I mean, there's lots of ways you can find mentors, and sometimes you have to be creative, but definitely you can find them. And oftentimes, if you ask, people are more than willing to help.
So we've been getting some questions on the side here about, I guess Sam mentioned fundraising, and actually a number of guilds have raised funds so far. Our, I guess, St. Louis Guild has just been going out to local companies in the area and saying, hey, we're starting up this guild. You know, would you be interested in contributing to that? We can provide you with a list of estimated costs. So, you know, if you can say, well, if you want to just do the material costs, you know, at a minimum, here's how much it's going to cost, you know, per month. If we need a space, you know, here's the amount. If you want to allow us to get a laser cutter, here's how much we're going to need for that. And so we found that that's a good way to approach, you know, companies is with a list and say, hey, you know, with this amount of donation, you can help us, you know, do these great things.
Yeah, the great thing about corporate sponsorship is it's usually unrestricted, meaning they don't tell you how to use it. So they just give you the money, and going to them with an estimated list, or like what is your goal, like what are you trying to fund, usually helps them, because then they have a really clear idea of what are your needs and what are they actually giving you, what's it going to then in turn allow you to do. So that's one way. There are also lots of local grants that you can apply for. There's also lots of larger grants. They may be that sometimes will fund like kind of local programs and sometimes not. But there's lots of ways to fundraise. Then there's the good old-fashioned way of coming up with some kind of fundraiser, and like a bake sale or something like that, where you're just raising money that way. Also, asking companies for donations of materials is also a good idea. Instead of asking for money, like going to Home Depot and saying, we really need 5 power drills. Would you be willing to donate those to us? Going to them and asking for materials instead of money is also a really good way of building out your guild's resources and materials. I'm getting a question about how much does Hacker Scouts cost. So it's important to know that we don't actually charge for Hacker Scouts. What we do charge is material fees. And each guild is going to have slightly different costs because of where they are and what kind of fundraising they do, or if they have rental fees, for example, that might change. But I can give you an example of what we've done in Oakland initially, when we didn't start with any funding, and that was we charged each child $75, and what that covered was the entire Hackerling circuit, and they got a little canvas tool belt with their first badge, which is our Hacker Scouts logo badge, and we gave them a binder. It's just a simple white binder with an insert in the front that says Hacker Scouts and their guild number, and on the inside I've inserted our core values, a little story of how Hacker Scouts came to be, and some graph paper for their designs and their ideas. And then there's a little tab there also for any handouts that we give. Sometimes we give out handouts. For example, we gave one out on circuits with a design diagram, right, so that they could remember the information that we gave them. And they just punch holes and stick it in, and that becomes kind of their own little project to do with what they want. They really personalize them. They kind of use the binders as they want, but anything that we give them, we ask them to keep in their binder. All of that comes for the $75. That covered all of it. From then on, we've been charging a sliding scale of $10 to $20 a month to cover materials for badges. $20 is about the sweet spot we have found so far in terms of being able to cover all the materials over several months. Sometimes we've spent a little bit more, but sometimes we've spent a little bit less. So it seems to even out at that rate. Each guild will have to figure out if this is the right, maybe that's a place to start, but they'll have to figure out if that's the right rate for them. Especially if you have rental fees, then you would want to help build, you'd want to build that into your monthly fee. Once again, these are to cover material costs. All of our leaders, like the leaders in the national organization, are committing to this as volunteers, because we want this to be affordable, we want this to be accessible, and we want to put all of our energy into maintaining this high level of education and not have the overhead. And so that's our basic cost. And so that's a good overview of what it would cost without any fundraising at all. Now, if there is some fundraising, if there is some corporate sponsorships or local grants, or somebody, you have a bake sale and you raise $300, that goes into your account, and you can subsidize, or you can save it for field trips or extra activities. You as a guild will decide how to spend that money.
Yeah, and I just want to add that this is not a venture where we're running a business to go out and make money selling education. This is a community that we're building that is making information available for people. A lot of the activities that we do, we've found online and have tried out and found that this works and that doesn't. And so this program that we're putting together is really it's not something that we're trying to get money out of people. All the costs that we're presenting here are the costs that you'll face if you're trying to run this type of thing and get the materials that it takes to build a birdhouse. You're going to have to go and get some lumber. In general, the national organization is going to be asking for some amount of money. That amount of money is going to be what it takes to run a national organization, to filing fees for getting nonprofit status, basically maintaining the structures so that everyone can function. And the other part of that is actually the liability insurance, so that each guild doesn't have to worry about going and finding an insurance agent and insuring their guild's activities. We're taking care of that for you and trying to find the best price we can. If someone out there can find a better price for the insurance that we're offering, we're totally willing to go and, if it makes sense, change to that so that everyone can benefit from that. We're just trying to make things as easy as possible for all the people involved.
Right. And that is the point, is that it should be easy, and we're trying to take care of that. The fees that we're talking about do include, because we all benefit, we do ask that all the guilds share the costs of national liability insurance. And so that will be the bulk of the dues that will be annually, and we're trying to keep them as low as possible. And we're also looking into subsidizing, because we really want as much money to go into the actual program as we can. I see a question on the side: must we get our own nonprofit number? Are we able to use yours? That's back to the financial guidelines, which you'll be using ours, and to open a bank account, for example, you'll be using our EIN number, and we can operate as one. Not everybody doesn't have to incorporate and form their own. Next question, Joanne.
I think we've about covered everything, at least the basic for now, and we just made it to an hour time. Yeah, so unless you want to have anything else that you'd like to add to what we've discussed so far, basically, I'd like to, yeah.
I noticed at the end there that there was one more question about what is the difference between Guild and Open Lab, and I just want to follow up with that really quick, and that is, okay. The Guild is a weekly meeting. It's structured in that there is a kind of consistent rhythm that happens in Guild, from the Hackerling circuit into the badges and the focused work. It's all about individual goals and needs. It's all about mentorship, and it's kind of a more focused, serious study, while at the same time being really fun and personal. Open Lab is something that we do twice a month in Oakland, and other groups are doing it once a month, and some are also doing it twice a month. It is a time to open up to the public and allow and have kids come in just to expose them to concepts and skills. So in a typical Open Lab, the kids will come in and they will see that we're offering 3 activities. Sometimes those activities have a thread that connects them all, and sometimes not. But each one we've designed in a way or taken from off the internet and modified in a way that we feel makes sense in how to teach. And we've also do a lot of work around multiple learning styles and making sure that there's a balance of multiple learning styles in each Open Lab, because we never know who's going to show up and how they learn. So the kids come in and they choose. We also have a set of electronic kits that they can choose from, and the kids come in, they decide what they want to do. It's completely autonomous. We don't tell them, and they come in and they do it. Sometimes they do more than one activity. Sometimes they do the one and they leave. They don't need to RSVP. They just show up. In Oakland, we've been averaging about 50 kids. That's 50 per Open Lab. So it's very busy, and I like to call it constructive chaos, because it seems to a lot of parents, it seems a little wild at first, but I'm very quick to point out that the kids are actually very focused on their work and are doing a lot of peer-on-peer mentorship, because I will never have enough mentors to reach each kid the minute they need something, not with 50 kids. We do this actually intentionally. We actually have all of our mentors hold back a little bit and see what's going on and see if they need us, because oftentimes they end up figuring it out either themselves or they ask another peer for help, and that kind of learning is actually really important, and we want them to have that. Of course, if they really need us, then we jump right in and help them. And the other option they have for Open Lab is, if they don't want to do any of the activities that we're offering, they are free to bring in their own project, and we will help them with it. Like if they're stuck on a certain part of it, we will help them through it. So that that aspect of Open Lab is really significant and really fun. What we've noticed is a lot of kids who come to Open Lab, often that is their entrance into this world of making and hacking, and that from there, often many of them are very interested in moving on to the Guild. And then sometimes not. Sometimes Open Lab is actually a better fit for kids who just want to make their own decisions about when they want to come in and do something, or they don't want to come to every week. Then that is a better fit. On the opposite end, sometimes Guild is actually a better fit for kids. So it just depends on, and then we have kids who come to both every single time, and it's wonderful. So it just really depends on the child themselves, but it has been a really wonderful way of identifying what skills and concepts that kids are really interested in, and how can we help them continue their education in those things.
To answer the question about how much of the resources we've been we have prepared, so we're basically developing this learning website that is talking, that's actually focused on going through each of the activities that we want to be doing, like the Hackerling circuit, and actually step by step. This website's still a little bit under development, but we've been adding to it, constantly. So what I'm showing now is for the Hackerling circuit, and it's for when they first receive the Hackerling circuit and what you should be talking to them about. We have lists of resources that you can go and look at, and then step-by-step instructions for the mentors on things to talk about, like, hey, here's other types of ways that you make circuits, and here's the Arduino and what is an Arduino, and here's how parts attach to a board, and all these areas that we're very actively trying to fill out. It's a lot of information, but we're really trying to get all the information out there, and we have it in some form or another. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible to access on this new site.
Right. For Guilds right now, we do share certain folders with them, but eventually everything will be transferred over and be up on the website and easily accessible. And we are pretty far along, and we plan on having the bulk of it up actually hopefully by Maker Faire, which is in May 18th here in the Bay Area.
Great. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add? I think we had a pretty good. We covered pretty much like a lot of the basic stuff for the first hour. And should there be any other questions, what would they? I mean, where would you suggest they go specifically for the national organization? For the South OC group, of course, we have the Guild 015 at hacker-scouts.org, and maybe you could tell them, where you want them to go, Sam.
To reach the national organization, is that what you
asked? For the main website and like the best references.
The main website,
or resources.
The main website is www.hacker-scouts.org, and from there you can contact us. All of our information on our programs is up there, and pretty soon we'll have a link that will say learning that we'll attach to the website that Garrett just showed us. And so anybody who is interested in contacting us for more information should start there.
Great. Gareth, are you okay?
Yep.
You got it covered?
Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think we got quite a bit of a live stream audience. I received a few texts that they want a fire-breathing pig as well. They want to create that, so that was pretty funny. But anyway, this is definitely a great start for all of us. If anyone wants to go further, either to create their own guilds, you know where to go. Just send Sam and Gareth information, and for Orange County, California details, just look us up on Facebook, and yeah, we're all over the place right now. So we're just establishing. So pretty much, we're open to membership to accept members. Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry that we couldn't have you, and then for the others too who was supposed to be on this. At least what I'm happy about is that we were able to record it. So I wasn't able to get others on board for this particular one, but they can watch this again. So we'll figure it out and do better next time. But see you again, and talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for hosting, Joanne.